Welcome to another interview. Today we are honored to be joined by Esti Louw, sorry, let me not destroy that. Esti, I've known for a long time, and it's such an honor to have her on the show. Esti is one of our leading general counsel on the African continent. She's has had a financial services background for quite a while. I had the opportunity to work with her quite a while ago as well. And I'm just honored that you will come and share some of your lessons of what it takes to be a high performer and what you've learned from your trajectory. And yeah, thank you for making it. Thank you for honoring us with your presence, Esti.
Um, Gosh, no, it's wonderful to be. It's an honor to be invited. Definitely. So I feel that where I've gotten to is a testament. It's yeah, it's wonderful to be here. So it's just much of an honor to be here as it is for you to have me. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Well, Esti, did you know when you were growing up, and by the way, you'll tell me where you grew up, did you know that you're going to be a lawyer? Was it one of those things? I mean, one of our former colleagues said that he knew by age 8 or 9 that he was going to be an environmental lawyer. It was like, and whenever I beat him now and I run into him, I says, 8 years old. Were you one of those?
I was not.
Sure.
Hate to break you, but I was. The one thing I did have is a passion for words and for reading and for writing and for. I used to have a little book and I'd write down. I think my first word that I wrote down was omniscient. I was reading Wilbur Smith at the age of 10, so I always had a definitely a big passion for words, and then eventually went on to do my master's in plain language and kind of evolved from there. But so more passion for words and structuring of sentences and reading. And when I eventually did study law, I actually did my majoring in English, so kind of combined with law with languages, and I think that's kind of where my strong point is. So
Hmm.
didn't know I was going to be a lawyer, but I definitely knew I was going to be working with words, which I love. I love words. So yes.
Hmm. Amazing.
Mm.
And so run us through. So you grew up surrounded by literature, clearly, and someone who loves words, you know, go from where you were, which by the way, please tell us, to where you are now. Just run us through maybe just a little bit of your trajectory.
Okay. So I grew up in Johannesburg. My mother is an academic and a professor, so I had a very interesting background. She was doing um, her doctorate degree, and when I was very little, we were actually in Venda because she was busy doing her doctorate degree. So kind of exposure to different cultures and things like that. So she definitely, I grew up with a very high thirst for knowledge. And she, when I spoke to her this morning, she was quoting Kofi Annan, and she's, so I think coming from an intellectual background, and a mother who's intellectual, and my father was an architect, so growing up in that kind of household where I think performance is important, education is important, a thirst for knowledge is important, and we were given, there was no excuse. I was reading from a very young age, and I think it was that kind of exposure to to education, to literature, to all of these things that kind of got me started. I was a reluctant law student. I hate to break it to you. I had, because I love words, I was like, Mom, I want to become a journalist. She said, absolutely not. You could not become a journalist. So anyway, so we decided, okay, we're gonna I'll study law, but I can major in English. And then eventually, I actually really loved it. I found law to be fascinating and interesting, and I love stories, and all the legal court cases with these amazing stories, and how you put things together. And I think what was great about studying law was actually structuring your mind in a way. So it teaches you to to live structurally, but also to be, you kind of have to be creative. So being a contract lawyer, you within the words and how do you frame things is a bit of creativity involved. And then I finished my BA LLB, went on to do my master's degree in contract law, specializing in plain language and consumer protection and POPI and all those wonderful things. And then ended up in the telecommunications media technology department after various jumps and hops at Weber Wenzel, and then decided that being a lawyer was not for me because the timesheets and all the things, and I wanted to be in a more of a collaborative environment. I love working with people. So two things you need to know about me: I love words and I love people. So those are the two things. So if I can make those work together, I left for MultiChoice, which was awesome. So I got to be a media lawyer, got to travel to Cannes and negotiate some of really cool contracts with some of the studios, and so got to know a little bit more about. So when I see a movie, I kind of know a little bit more about the rights and how all the legal structure behind it's put together. So and then I decided I wanted to move to sunny Cape Town, and not being afraid to take on a challenge and take on a role that I know nothing about. I joined MultiChoice with no media law experience, left after 4 years and joined as head of regulatory for a microfinance company with no regulatory or finance experience. So definitely not afraid to take a risk. And that was kind of my segue into the financial sector. And then subsequent to that, I joined PayU, and I'm now very much ingrained into the financial sector, fintech. I've done the two main courses in payments. So when it comes to payments, I
You're the one to speak
a financial lawyer.
You're the one to speak to.
One of the ones.
One of the ones.
Yes, I mean, yeah. So I'm one of the few people who gets nerded out by like what happens if you tap your phone or you tap your watch, and how does it all fit together? So again, it's the story behind the story. And I think that's it. That's what it is interesting about the legal mechanisms behind it. It's the same with the movie. There's so much behind it. There's legal constructs behind every single movie that gets made. There's a legal construct behind every single payment that gets made. There's, and that's there's like the story behind the story. So there's a legal layer behind most things that happen that people just take for granted.
Wow, but it seems that you like to live in there, to structure those stories, to make those stories better in a way. That's what I'm picking up. Thank you, Esti, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Was there is there a bit of hesitation there? There's a intake
not
of breath.
All. No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay. Well, you've now been firstly general counsel in a media company. You've been a practicing attorney. You've been in a private practice, a big one, and you've been focused sort of, I suppose, still a general counsel, but now in a very specific industry, in financial services, fintech specifically. What would you say over your career? Would you say are some of the things that a budding lawyer should know about what it takes to succeed in? And I suppose, is it different things in the different areas of law? Just technically as a lawyer, before we go into as a leader of others.
So I think if you move away from the kind of legal space, a lot of the times you'll be leading not other lawyers, but you will be the gatekeeper of a lot of the different functions. So in the way that you are the custodian for a lot of these things. So as a fintech or in smaller businesses, invariably, legal is a grudge purchase. So they're going to employ one lawyer. They put all their money into like all the engineers, and there's a gazillion of them, and there's one lawyer running around trying to do everything, and one compliance counsel. And so I think for me, the biggest lesson is don't be afraid to speak up. And I had this lesson because I arrived at at Jumo, which was the microfinance company. And one of the senior women actually pulled me aside and she said, "You need to speak up. You've got something to say. You're smart. But there's a lot of big personalities in the room. And if you don't say what you want to say, you're not going to get hurt." And I think that was a good lesson. So I think, first of all, educate yourself, because people know when you don't know what you're talking about. So I think that's important when you go into a new space. Make sure that you read up, you get the right education, you get the background, you've got the knowledge behind it. But once you have the knowledge, have the confidence to stand by, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I've made the biggest growth come from making a mistake, especially if you're a perfectionist, especially if you come from a background where the high performance is mandatory, and a mistake that you made has repercussions. So don't be afraid to make the mistake, as long as you don't make it twice, and never ever hide a mistake. I think that's important. So learn from your mistakes, make the mistakes, but don't let fear stand in between you and where you want to get to. And don't be afraid if a challenge looks. I never thought I would be the single legal counsel for a payment company across different jurisdictions. When I first applied, I thought there's no chance. There's no way I can do this. So now I've had that feeling every single time I applied for a position. It's like, here I go again. I'm starting from scratch in a new era, and somehow, if you break through the fear, as long as you put in the work, I think, just know you got here through hard work, and you're already a smart human being, and you can, if you've got the ability to learn, there's no obstacle that can stand in your way. And people don't read. So as long as you can read a contract, you'll have a job. I make the joke all the time. I said, if people start reading, I don't have a job because people just forward me legal agreements. They think it's written in some sort of different language that no one else has access to. But yeah, I think that's it. No, don't let fear stand in the way of meeting new goals, or changing. I think change is good, change is exciting, and don't be afraid of change.
Wow, thank you so much, Esti, for that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, in terms of what to focus your knowledge building on, how did you choose that? What have you seen, not just for yourself, but for the lawyers who I suppose have succeeded? Because law and many other things are broad. You can study many areas. What made you decide on contract and that focus? And how much you think one should think through the process of where does one build knowledge?
Look, I think if you're a lawyer, invariably my contracts have maybe 10 to 20% legalese in them. The rest is technical. So it's about learning your industry. I think that's important. So that's where the knowledge gap kind of is. And the second thing is, in terms of regulatory knowledge, is having access to good databases and keeping up to date with regulations. But I think in terms of knowledge, it's getting to know your business, because if you go into a legal counsel role, you're not going to be asked to just do the legal work. There's going to be a document on your desk that is very technical, so you need to understand the business. I think that's why I had to go, when I was like, how does this payment thing, how does it work? And I went all the way down the rabbit hole, and I went and did my enhanced payment course in the end, because I need to know how it works, because I can't negotiate or draft or understand the contract without knowing how the systems work. So I think it depends. But what's great about being a lawyer is you can transfer your knowledge skills to different areas. If you have a privacy background, that's transferable to so many industries. If you have a consumer protection background, you can implement that in every single industry that you're in. So I think what I've found, and the one thing I think is, know your strengths and know your weaknesses. So so the other day I had to draft a board resolution, and it was a capital injection, and I had to do all sorts of, number crunching and that. And I got the calculator out, and I said to the finance lady next to me, I said, this is a very dangerous point in time for me, because I know my weakness when it comes to numbers. So it's a dangerous time when I have to whip out a calculator. So when in that point, I always have that my numbers double checked. So I think know your strengths. Your strengths is in drafting. I don't necessarily have a second pair of eyes over every single pair of drafting I do, but when there's other skills involved, like there's financial calculations. I know that might be a weakness of mine, so that's when I ask for help. So I think know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and if you grow more towards your strengths, I've been amazed at how everything just fit together so well in my career trajectory. I started out doing contract law because I really liked my contract law professor, and he was so cool, and he was doing sports law, and I just I loved working with him. And all of a sudden, I got involved in plain language drafting, and then at Webber Winsell, I was working on, I can't say that, but big companies redrafting all the terms and conditions into plain language. I was like, wow, okay, this is now where it goes. And then, got into consumer protection, and so I think invariably every little thing that you don't see the use of is eventually comes to, you can use them as building blocks for your career.
Can we say
Yeah.
leading you into your purpose almost?
Yeah, definitely. And your purpose finds you. I don't think it doesn't see, you didn't need to see.
The whole
I
picture.
didn't have the goal to be a GC or to be this or be that. I just had, it just kind of, the path just opened up into different spaces. And if the path looked like somewhere I wanted to venture into, I would go. If I felt like, right now I'm not growing and I'm not learning, and then I changed trajectory. And I think that's the thing, is kind of flowing with opportunities, and using the opportunities to invariably get to. But people are very different. I'm a kind of more of a fluid person. Other people, I want to be GC of, a multinational company. I never worked that way. I kind of found my purpose as I went along, and it's been so fulfilling, and surprising, actually. The fact that you actually said it's honored for me to be here. It's an honor for me to have gotten to where I am with amazing people around me, amazing role models, strong women. I must say, nothing against men, but I've had some amazing strong role models, strong lawyers I've worked under. Right now, my CEO of PayU is also a strong lady, Corin Addison, and I think that's also a big thing, is enabling people around you. And I've definitely had that, as people building me up and saying, "You're great, you can do this."
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Esti, for that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're seeing around you, maybe in your industry, just in terms of achieving and sustaining high performance in your role, particularly as head of legal, or a GC, or a general counsel, or VP of legal? I don't know. Yeah. Is there anything you're seeing? I think you're very active in your industry, in the GC community. What would you say are trends are you seeing in that particular role for people to achieve and sustain high performance? What do you say?
What's been surprising is, and I was at the GC Africa conference the other day, and I'm on a WhatsApp group with hundreds of other lawyers in the GC community, and I think the new trend is collaboration. I don't know how you felt, but
sorry, I was muted. It's right there behind you. It's right there behind you.
Is it?
Yeah, collaboration.
Exactly. So what's amazing to me is the fact that lawyers are reaching out to each other and helping each other and sharing knowledge. Old colleagues of mine will, text me and say, Esti, where's it written down? And I'm talking about competitors' legal counsel say, where's this written down that this cannot happen? I said, don't worry, I'll find it for you. Where's that piece of legislation? Collaboration between legal counsel, which on a level that I've not seen it before. And that, I think, is a trend, and it's a wonderful trend that we are not islands and we are not in competition with each other. There's a knowledge sharing that's going on, and a collaboration and a communication between legal counsel from all over the world that I haven't really seen before. And that's thanks to the devil and the angel that's at social media and connectiveness is this wonderful world that opens up to people, as much as it's also a tool to collaborate. And like I said,
But I mean, doesn't trust need to have been built up? And for whatever reason, something happened to create those communities of openness and trust. Because you can have the technology, but if people aren't trusting, I mean, and I suppose it speaks to whatever is happening, whatever consciousness is arising that is making this clear that, collaboration is the way. And you're right, maybe it's coming with this movement towards, I mean, we're talking about what do you call that type of software where it's built by the community, like Linux,
like open source.
This whole openness.
Yeah, exactly. Open source.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It kind of ties in to the growth of.
Yeah, I suppose the regulations are the open source software, and we build our own little kind of. Oh my gosh, that takes me back to my software as a service agreement. But yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
So and then that's the thing. So people aren't, and that's a great analogy actually, because when we talked about open source, oh, this is going to be so nerdy, but open source software versus it's the ingredients, right? But how you put the cake together, that's up to you. So people aren't scared to go, hey, can I have some flour? Can I have some sugar? But it's up to you in your own company, build your own systems, build your own, and make your own cake. But I think as lawyers, we're happy to like knock on each other's door and say, hey, can I have a glass of milk, please?
Perhaps
so I think that's maybe the thing.
It's the type of lawyers you surround yourself with. I don't know that it's.
I think that's
Maybe.
True. That's very true. It's true. I think, but it's the culture within GC specifically, because I think it's and a lot of the time, maybe just in the fintech space or in the space that I'm in, RegTech, whatever, you have one or two people in the whole company. So you're not in a law firm. We have access. Oh my gosh, I'd love a candidate attorney. That's the one thing I would love. You don't have access to people. You don't have access to other lawyers. You have yourself, and you have the tools that enable you. And you perhaps have. I've got global connections. But from an Africa perspective, I've got myself, and I've got my connections to my local council, and then I've got my wonderful connection of friends who I've made, who I can pick up the phone and say, what do you think about this? And we always protect our own business.
Sure. And even if you do have a team under you, it's literally you're managing this team. It's not that easy. They may not know the pressures you're facing, So it sounds like a mastermind of sorts has been created amongst you, and it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Esti. I know that your time is precious, so I just wanted to wrap up with the last question. What failure, maybe success, you said failure, so let's go with failure, helped elevate your performance the most, and why?
Gosh. I think, and it's not a failure, but I think being faced with, on multiple occasions, not having the answers was frustrating. Not being the expert when you walk in the door because you're in a new environment, and walking in and people, wanting you to have all the answers because they trust you, and they, I think that's important. But I think that was the biggest challenge, was keeping trust in myself from my team whilst learning the business. And I think that has been the greatest struggle, is maintaining the trust, but then also knowing there's certain things that I need to learn in order for me to do my job better, not showing, maybe always showing the fear in my heart and not letting it shine through my eyes at times. I think, but I think that's it. Is learning on the job. It's a tough one. But very rewarding in the end.
And having done it now a few times in different industries,
Yes.
what do you think is important for, say, a budding GC or first time GC, or anyone really looking to transition into a space like you've done so many times, where they don't know everything? And day one, hey, what do you think as some things, maybe mindsets or even tools that you found helpful? I mean, you hinted at, don't let the fear come through and show in your eyes. But what is there any?
Yes.
What?
So for me, I think, and I'm going to quote another GC that was in the panel with me the other day, where she talked about humility, and I think that's maybe something that our lawyers we're not very well known for, is our capacity to be, to ask questions and to be humble sometimes. Because so for me, humility, I think, is important, because you need to be know where your shortcoming or where your knowledge gaps perhaps are. And I think I think humility is important. And then asking for assistance or information from your colleagues. I think, humility, and then collaboration, those would be my two things. Is in the end, people are just people. And I think, especially if you want to be working with, you can't come in you trying to enforce anything onto the team. So enter with a level of humbleness, and knowing that, yes, I might be the expert in the law, but the team knows their product best, or those kinds of things. So I think humility is important.
Also, it helps build trust.
Definitely. He said people are people, and in the industries are small. So you want to have friends. That's important. Build connections, build friendships. And that's built on trust and collaboration.
For instance, you don't want anybody saying, this one is so defensive. She came here, she didn't know anything, but I mean, we knew she wouldn't know that much, but she still, she was like, so you don't want that kind of reputation.
No.
Esti, it's been an honor. It's been amazing. What are you up to? How can we, what in terms of our viewers, if they
I wish I had anything. I have nothing to sell. I'm just here for the joy of being here. I don't have a plug. I don't have a book.
Nothing
I don't
to
have
plug.
a podcast. I've got nothing to plug. No, but I mean, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to have a chat. I'm happy to help, or chat to any other lawyers who who want to chat or want some advice. And
be part of this collaboration community.
Definitely.
Esti, it's been an honor. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording now.